Open your mind to the way, the conscious way, the way of conscious mindfulness. My name is Sifu Boggy, and welcome to The Way of Conscious Mindfulness, a weekly Facebook Live and podcast show discussing spirituality and science, balancing health and well-being with mind, body, and spirit, with a Daoist twist. What does the Tao mean? The Tao means the way, the path, the balance. Now, we are not, surprise, surprise, the normal talk show. Each week, each session, because sometimes we have one a week, sometimes we have more. Each session, we have either a subject or a guest. Tonight, we have a very wonderful guest. And our aim is to have an open discussion to help us all find new techniques, new skills to balance our own personal Tao way or path. So, as I said, my name is Sifu Boggy. This is The Way of Conscious Mindfulness. And tonight we have a very cool guest. We've already spoken, and I've sort of let her into a few little secrets that these are actually two of my favourite topics, two of my favourite subjects. So it should be an interesting show. So let's bring her on. So let's just do that, and let's just do that. So good evening, Keira. How are you doing, firstly?
Hello, Sifu Boggy. It is so wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. So yes, So let's get on with it as such. So this show is going to be The Way of Keira Lani and The Way of Tree Communication and Energetic Awareness. Though I think it will go off on other tangents as well, like our conversation already has. So I will first ask the question, the ultimate question, the question that some people love and some people run away for miles from. And that question is, so this is the way of Keira Lani. So Keira, what is your way? What is your Tao?
Thank you. I actually love this question. And after we spoke last time, I thought about it a lot, and it's so interesting because I believe after contemplation that I've always been a Taoist, even though I had no idea what it meant until probably, I guess I started Qigong 8 years ago. I really didn't get into Taoist philosophy until probably about 3 years ago, honestly. And when I was young, I thought, oh, it's just that convoluted butchering of one of my favorite children's books, The Tao of Pooh. Now I think, now that I've read the Tao Te Ching, maybe I should read the Tao of Pooh and see what I think now. But yes, so my way is the way of conscious mindfulness at the heart of it. I was raised by hippie spiritual Jew. She grew up as a secular Jew, and before I was born, she was initiated by an Indian master into a path called satsangi. Satsangis believe that you need a living master to guide you to enlightenment. They believe that Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha were all such for their followers, and that they can only bring the people that are living, and they're no use to us now. And so my mother taught me, this is what I believe, but the satsangis have another belief. You cannot decide for your children. So I was told, seek for yourself. At a very young age, I began seeking for myself, and therefore essentially stepping onto that Taoist path. I learned fairly recently that the symbol for Tao is a self on a path. And so here I am, a self on a path. And I'm really excited to share a bit about that unique path, which, as the title proclaims, includes communicating with trees. I've always been a bit of a nature spirit. And as I shared with you previously, communicating with trees, when I started doing it, I had no idea what Qigong is. But now that I do know what Qigong is, I know for sure that this was an experience of spontaneous Qigong when I first communicated with a tree. So that is a little bit about my way. I've always been a spiritual seeker who looks for personal experience to confirm what I'm told, and also for the intersections, the places where people of different faiths agree. That's where I see truth. And so I still do that with interactions with people too. Where do you and I agree? Where is the intersection in our philosophy, and how can we bring each other enlightenment through looking at those intersections?
That's what that's all about. It's the balance. It's seeking, this is the Tai Chi symbol. And people who practice the energy art, the martial art Tai Chi, this actually came first. It's like the chicken and the egg, but it was actually this that came first. It's the symbol that relates to the information. And this is about that balance, balancing the yin and yang to create Tai Chi. And the Tao is your personal way. It's the personal balance. But yep, that's what that's all about.
Yes. Yes, I love that. The Tai Chi symbol bringing all the energies together, and the experience that we get to enjoy as humans of what does that mean for each one of us. So I love this subject that you have brought of what is your way, because we all have our own path to walk, and yet we can receive truth and guidance and information from each other to help us along our way. And so thank you.
Because because the whole point is finding your own, the way it was translated, the Tao, because there's many different Taos, but the word, one of the things of your Tao, or this seeking the Tao, is this: it's a personal path. It doesn't matter whether you're Christian, Buddhist, whether you're atheist, whether you're banana worshipper, whether you like putting carrots on your head. It's totally irrelevant. It's finding your own personal Tao or way. And I always say it confuses people a lot, and friends of mine are always like touch and go, oh, here he goes again. But I'll always say, like, to certain people, I say, you're a Daoist. And it doesn't matter that you haven't, because American Indians are Daoists, a lot of them. Inuits are Daoists. If somebody's following their own personal way, and it's balanced for them, because the whole point is, what's balanced for me doesn't mean that it's balanced for you. So it used to be interesting when I was younger. I've always been, I've loved acting. I've loved nature. I was actually a very introvert as a child, and I had dyslexia and whatnot. And it was learning this. It was my first sifu that said about the name Bogi, which Bogi means the balance between chaos and calmness. It's in essence this symbol, and the whole idea is by tuning into my wild side, this extrovert side. I used to have a big thing, and every now and again I still wear it. It's Taz. And there's a big thing for, the wild creature and the Tasmanian devil. And the whole point is unleash, it's like unleashing that flame, unleash the Taz within. But the whole point is you need that balance. You need the yin and the yang. Like the monkey mind, the ego, and intuition, or Taoist thought, or Buddha thought, or Taoist mind, is you need both. And you're the thing in the middle. The one thing that doesn't show up on this, but in the ancient texts, the Tao and the balance, the Tao being the balance, would be that in here, this line here, in between these two, would be a silver mist, and that is the Tao. That is the balance you seek. You seek between, the night and the day, the balance you seek between your ups and your downs, your action and your inaction, everything you want to do and everything that you have to do to learn from. That is all intertwined within the yin and the yang. And it's seeking that balance, that silver mist, which is the Tao. But anyway, enough about that.
I love it. So I discovered from what you said we have more in common, because I was also an introvert who turned to theater in my youth. And when you spoke of the Tasmanian devil, I immediately put the Daoist spin on it and started thinking of the movement in the stillness and the stillness in the movement, how when we're doing really big actions, we're moving a lot on the outside and bringing stillness within. And when we're sitting still in meditation, there's a spiraling going on inside as the energy moves. And that's such a big piece. And I'm also a poet, and I recently wrote a Daoist poem, and one of the lines from it is, movement within stillness, stillness within motion, duality, what a notion. And it's all about that dynamic flow, like you said, finding the balance. So I love that. Thank you for sharing all of that, for sure. And it also was making me think of how it feels to communicate with a tree, not in the traditional tree qigong way that we talked about, that you shared with me, which I have yet to actually go and practice, but in the spontaneous way that it came to me when I was young. And I'd love to share a bit about that, just because it's an interesting thing that I discovered for myself, and now I'm learning more about tree communication as a greater thing. So yeah, when I was in my early 20s, I was a young mother. I moved back to the land where my mom raised me in rural southern Oregon, over here on the west coast of the U.S. And I had this walk. My mom created a walk for herself to keep her moods balanced. And it was called the up and down walk. We would go up the hill and we'd come back down the hill. And then we would visit Grandpa Cedar. My mom first taught me to talk to nature spirits, but I didn't know that they would ever talk back. So we would visit this big tree. We'd give the tree a hug. We'd leave offerings. And then one day she went off to Hawaii, and I was there by myself with my little baby boys. And I decided to take the walk by myself. I walked up, I walked down, I went to visit Grandpa Cedar, and I opened my arms wide. I gave that tree a big hug, and I inhaled the cedar smell. So good. And then I had this very interesting experience that surprised me greatly. I felt the energy from my belly, which I did not know about Dantians yet, even though I did know about chakras because I trained in yoga from a very young age. So I felt the energy in my belly just pulled into that tree all the way up to the top. And then the tree held me there. It didn't want me to go. It didn't give me my energy back. It was like, hey, where is she? Where's that person that visits me every day? And so I was like, oh, my mom's in Hawaii. And I imagined her sitting on the beach. I said, hey, will you look out for her, Grandpa Cedar, over there in Hawaii? And then I was like, don't worry, we'll stay connected. And I just gently withdrew my energy. And I went back to my little house. And the next day, I awoke before dawn. I sat in meditation, and I was like, yeah, I'm still connected to that tree. I'm going to test this out. And I sent my awareness back to the tree from my house. And I was suddenly taken on a journey, a journey where I was floating in an electrical web of communication between trees, and I could feel that it went around the entire globe. And I just kind of floated there for a while, and then I came out of my meditation, and later that day I called my mom and I told her this story. And this was the strangest part, because she says to me, wow, I was wondering why I saw Grandpa Cedar on the beach when I was sitting there looking at the ocean yesterday. And back then I had no idea, but years later I found a book by Paul Stamets. I don't know if you've heard of Paul Stamets. But
rings a bell. I would have to relook. But
yeah, well, he's also from this Pacific Northwest region, and he's a mushroom guy. So he wrote this book that's called Mycelium Running, and it's all about the way that mushrooms create networks of communication between the trees. And there's a picture in there that looks exactly like the vision that I had in my meditation. And so that's when I knew for sure that I was really communicating with the tree, and it wasn't just all entirely in my imagination, because basically I saw something I didn't know about. So it was a very kind of really out there experience. I'm sure some people watching this might just think I'm a crazy tree hugger, and that's okay, because it's all about sharing. You too. And yeah, there are plenty of people out there that are going to go, yes, somebody else has had this experience, because the more that I share it, the more I find that there are other people, and the more stories I see about this communication in the forests. And now the Heart Math Institute is doing research on communication between humans and trees, and not just how much the forests nourish the humans, but that also the trees need that connection. So it's very interesting, and I'm really super grateful to have had this visceral experience of it, and then be watching the science come and bring in the explanations and be able to share it with people. So
there's some really cool, I mean, in quantum physics, there's a load of stuff, but my teachers, there's a big thing for me about not just the Zhang, which is stand like a tree, but actually just doing energy work with trees in general, because they would always talk about chi in and cha out. So chi, breath, positivity, light, you draw that in. You draw it in from around you through your skin. There's chi in, and you cha when you exhale, when you sigh, when you cry, when you burp or pop, when you click your bones. That's all cha. Now, the interesting thing in that with that philosophy is the biggest thing my teachers will always say is, one of the things they'd say within the Buddhist cycle is that trees are actually a level of meditation, that trees are a being that are in meditation. And the Daoists, because Daoists intertwined with Buddhism as well, and they have a strong belief with that as well. But the other thing, the interesting thing, is like, obviously scientifically, we know that what we breathe out, the carbon monoxide that we breathe out, is actually absorbed by the trees. They absorb that as well as the light, but they actually need what we absorb. And before that was even being discussed or mentioned scientifically, that back in the days, and or at least in the Daoist, I know, and within Tibetan philosophy as well, is they talked about what we breathe out cha, and for a tree, cha is chi. Is like a little riddle, a poem. So is a tree's cha is chi, and a tree's chi is cha, or for their cha is our chi. So the whole idea, going back to this, is that within the yang you will find yin, and within the yin you will, going off camera, within the yin you will find yang, and with the yang you will find yin. But also in this symbol was this thing, especially with trees and life, was that what one breathes out, the other breathes in. So the whole point is that what for one is waste, a little bit like, a little bit like manure. Manure, for us is waste, but for a tree, it's fertilizer. For plants, it's food, so it's this concept, and part of the Daoist concept, there is no good or bad, there just is, because one person's bad is something or somebody else is good. There will always be this transference of the yin and the yang. There'll always be that something else can use. There's an old, especially in recessions, there's the old saying of there's money in muck. And it's like when everybody else is having a recession and things are falling apart, there's always somebody who's thriving from it and excelling from it. And it's the thing with this balanced symbolic relationship between the trees and life, especially, or us especially, is this yin and yang, that there's this transfer of chi and cha. So all this, that's what I've always grown up with. So I've been always very passionate. I've been very lucky that I've always lived around. England's quite woody. Obviously, a lot of it's been citified in the last 500 to 1,000 years, but there are still great bits of green, especially in a country where it rains a lot. There are still great bits of green, and I've always been lucky that I've always lived near a forest of one sort or another. And where I work right next to a forest, which is very old. It goes back to medieval time. They used to do jousting there, and I used to live in another area. Actually, I used to live in the movie Star Wars and the Forest Moon of Endor, back in the original ones. That was, a lot of people think it was the cedar trees of America, but a lot of that was actually filmed in a place called Black Park, which is in England, which I lived literally right next to. And actual Pinewood Studios itself was literally 5 minutes away from me at one stage. So, I've always been lucky to have the woods nearby. And then my other favourite place is the sea. The whole thing, and obviously the ionization of the air with the sea is also another interesting and important thing. But trees have always been part of my blood, always been part of my, or even my training. I've spent many years doing training in the UK as well as other countries, and we always, especially with the Daoists, they love areas that has a mountain, a lake, or ocean and woods or forest. They love that combination. Like you get the mountain with the altitude and the chi that provides, the woods and forest with the chi that provides, and then water. They always have those mixtures, because in essence you have the 5 elements within that. You have the Chinese 5 elements, so you have the earth. You have the metal within, obviously, the earth, but also in the mountain. You have the wood. You have the water. And with us being there, you have the fire. So, because they would obviously have the fire. They'd either generate fire internally, or they would create a fire. So, yes, it's all about the balance. And again, in Taoism, you have different thoughts or philosophies or schools that some people use more than others. So you have the 5 element school, you have the yin yang school, you have the 3-1 school, and these are all different schools that are all interlaced in different ways. But anyway, enough about that.
That's beautiful. I didn't know that specific interpretation of the 5 elements. I like that, with the fire that comes from within, or that we create with our spark, the spark of life, as it were. And yes, I also have a great connection to the ocean and sit with the waves and for me, it's the Pacific Ocean because that's the ocean I grew up with, but I can receive the same energy on the Atlantic or any other place being on the sea for sure. And the trees, the ocean, and going to the top of a mountain, there's nothing like that for getting yourself in the space. It's almost like being on the top of a mountain is a meditation, right? You all of a sudden have this completely different view. The sky is big. You can see far around. And the journey there, talk about putting a person on a path, getting from the at bottom of the trail to the top of the trail, the journey that you take, the things you see along the way, and then the accomplishment that you feel at the top of a mountain. I feel like that is a really great metaphor for life, for being on your path of life. The way that sometimes we go up the hill, sometimes we're coming back down the hill, all the different things we find along the way. So yes, I love all of that. And it's funny because I have my yoga background. Like I said, I started yoga. My mom would say I started yoga in the womb. And my first self-guided meditation practice, I was 5 years old. And when I started doing my own yoga practice, I was about 8. And so I always think, so I still have that 5-element theory ingrained. And this is when you were explaining the Chinese 5-element theory the way that you just did, I suddenly felt this connection. Like I always want to try to bring them together. I know other people that have been like, okay, how do the Chinese and the Indian 5-element theories fit together? And there are many different explanations, but somehow when you were talking about going from the sea to the top of a mountain, I could feel them just blending together naturally, because once you get to the top of the mountain, there's that ether or space energy that you were connecting in just through the process of bringing the human in. But we talk in the Qigong training that I'm doing now, where I'm learning about a lot more about the energetic anatomy, right? And how our Bai Wei point, that's the top of our Tai Chi pole, our midline, is connected to the North Star. And then our roots go into the earth like trees. And so it's almost like we are a tree connected to the heavens with a fire inside coming up from beneath. And then, of course, water is life, no matter how you look at it. All life is made of and needing water, right? And so bringing all of those elements together, and the metal feels like it connects to the air. In medical Qigong, we talk about metal as the lung element. And then in Indian philosophy, they have air instead of metal. And so it connects pretty easily once you start kind of bringing the pieces together, like I was talking about earlier, finding those connections, and then you realize that it is all one.
Well, there's so many things I can spark off from that. So, firstly, like it's interesting with the like in the West, they say, like if with the five elements, and they'll say yes, but they talk about Indian summer, midsummer doesn't exist, and well, actually it does, but because what they refer to as the fire, which the fire as a season would be the Indian summer or midsummer. What's midsummer? Midsummer is the hottest part of that summer. Mm-hmm. That's what midsummer, because they say earth is also summer and fire is midsummer. So what, so your earth is the general part of your summer, but the hottest part, like at the moment, is quite hot. So this would be the fire side. But either side, you've got that nice warm summery side, but that really scorching bit, that really hot bit, the bit that's really almost unbearable, that would be the fire, and that is the spark. Also, is that within one of the other things, like within the school of Yin and Yang, is you also have the thought of fire way and water way, and that's a little bit like in Star Wars, like the Jedi and the Sith. As such, is that the fire way is all about emotion, and it's all about generating heat, and generating that passion, that pure fire, because the heart is also fire related, fire connected, and the heart is very much about this passion. So in certain qigongs, in certain systems, they do like the 9 breath system, and it's about creating tension, and they hold their breath and hold it, and this creates this tension that creates the fire. The waterway, there is no tension. So in the breathing technique, you breathe in until you can't breathe in anymore, and then you instantly breathe out again, just like the Tai Chi symbol. There is no pause. And in that water tension, in that system, you don't create, you stay fluid and you stay moving and everything. So with the spinal wave, or there's a thing called twist of waist or cloud hands, the idea is you keep moving, you keep flowing, you keep going. So waterway exercises are very flowing. Now obviously the yin and the yang create Tai Chi, and we talk about the silver mist. The silver mist, this is where you get the analogy of the cooking pot. You have, obviously, with the 5 elements, you go back to the 5 elements again. You have the earth, which is the base. You have the wood underneath the bowl. The bowl is the metal. The fire heats up the bowl, and the water is inside the bowl. But this also represents the fire is the fireway. The water is the waterway. The steam becomes what's going to happen in Star Wars. You've got the Jedi, you've got the Sith, and now you're getting grey code, which is the balance of the two. And within Taoism would be the Tai Chi way, or the mist way, is also known as the mist school, where you take the fire techniques and you take the water techniques. And there's a thing called iron qigong, where you can be really, really soft, but just in my little finger, I can poke you with my little finger, and my finger was super glued to your chest, and however much you try to tug the rest of me, it's all soft and flaccid, but that point is super, super hard and burning and strong. So the idea of those two together, you become hard and soft at the same time. So you create that tension, but you only create that tension in one organ, or in one finger, or in one point. Because too much fire can create headaches, migraines, and eventual illness. Too much water, you can become, one of my little nicknames, to become too hairy-fairy. Back in the whole hippie days of the love, where it's very much about water. It's very much, oh man, it's wonderful, man, I'm just there in space, man, it's awesome. But there's no connection to the earth. So the whole idea, but obviously the fire will make you very logical, will make you very robotic or very industrious, and we went that fire way. So we became very much all about money and all about greed and power, which is very fire. So now the golden age that we're coming up to is about the balance of the two. The golden race, or the golden age, is all about the yin and the yang, the fire and the water, becoming the silver mist, heating up the fire with heating up the water with the fire and creating silver mist. But hey, what do I know?
I love that. That's another unconscious. Now I'm getting me. Are you hearing that?
Oh no, I can't hear it, but it's obviously coming from yours. Or maybe it's coming from me. Okay. Right. Let me just do this. Is it? You can still hear it? Yes.
No. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll turn off my mic, and then once you talk, then I'll turn off on my mic and turn your mic off. Okay. I'm turning off now.
Okay. Let's see. Yes, that's much better. Thank you. So you were just making me realize I always had this thing that I would say about myself, that I'm like fire underwater, which means I'm steam. And I was just thinking, oh, that's funny, because that's another way that I was being subconsciously Taoist in my explanation of myself. And it reminds me of one of my teachers was explaining the Tai Chi exactly that way, that normally in nature, we usually have the water coming down and the fire. Oh no, the fire comes down from the sky, from the sun, and the water is on the earth in the streams and oceans. But when we put the fire underneath the water, that's when the magic happens, and we have the Taoist alchemy creating the steam. And so I love bringing all these pieces together with you today. It's really fun. There was, pardon me, it feels so awkward having you on silent. It's really funny. I'm like, I can't hear you. But there was one other thing that you said that sparked something in me, but I got distracted by the whole microphone issue. So let's see, what else was I wanting to share today? Did we get any questions from our audience?
Let's have a look. Is it still echoing?
Let's see. I think it's better now.
Okay, cool. Well, if it echoes again, I'm not actually sure what Ali actually said. It says about which we ask question. Okay. Sorry,
That's a very good question.
I'm glad you think that. No offense, Ali, but I just remember something else I was going to say. But anyway, yes. I mean, can you remember what I sparked? Can you remember what it was that I had sparked in you?
Oh, you said so many interesting things. Yeah, I'm not remembering exactly what you sparked in me at that moment. There was, I think it was when you had the Tai Chi symbol up the last time, and we were thinking about that. Yes, I love that. So what is that for, anyways? Every time you raise it up, is it just it looks like it's a weapon of some sort.
A very good friend.
A mental weapon.
A very good friend of mine makes Ethan Collins. He is he used to be a co-host on the show, and he makes cloth weapons. He actually lives in the States, and he makes cloth weapons, and he makes like warhammers. And the whole idea is because one of his things is what he calls what's known as, well, in Tai Chi knows something slightly different, but he calls it sacred violence. The whole idea of play, and from play we learn and we understand. So the idea of having cloth weapons is you can get rid of your aggression, but still, in a playful way. And the whole point of this was, well, if I'm going to have to have a hammer, then because one of my students who's a teacher, Sifu Chilia for my school, he teaches for my school. I got him some hammers. Him and his wife, who's another one of my teachers. She teaches Reiki and the Chinese version of Reiki, which is Shin Shi Shen, which I taught her. And they had hammers. So if I'm going to have a hammer, I need a Tai Chi hammer, and it's actually it goes one way on one side, so it goes clockwise, or which would be considered, no offense, would be considered more masculine, and you've also got the anti-clockwise, which would be considered more feminine. Now, technically, that you actually should have both. It goes both ways. If the Tai Chi symbol was alive, firstly, it would be a sphere, and 1 minute it would be going one way, and then the next minute it will be going the other way, and it will turn in on itself, because that's showing the complexity of life, that the yin, it's yin and then yang, but it can flip the other way. And there is You know, as I used to get in trouble saying this saying because it would upset certain people, but there is no good or bad, there just is. You know, things flip. You know, in essence, again, like, you know, the atrocities that have happened in the past, yes, they are not good, but they open up other opportunities, and people, or the bad things in your life open up your opportunity for you to do good stuff. And, you know, it allows you to get through and to learn and to grow. You know, it is one of these rare, you know, it can be a very mixed thing. That, but in the Daoist point in that book, the Winnie the Pooh, they talk about one of the famous stories where you have three philosophers. You actually have Buddha, Confucius, and Lao Tzu, who was a Taoist, and they all drink the vinegar. And when Lao Tzu, who's the Taoist, drinks the vinegar, he smiles and goes, lovely, you know, because the bitterness, sometimes you need the bitterness to spark up new stuff. You need that. Yin and Yang means so many different things, but in that case, the yin can be in the darkness. So I like props as well. So even though it is a hammer, it's also a prop, just like this is a prop, which is my bell. But it also is very good for talking about the dantians. And then another one I haven't brought up yet.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my goodness!
Because this has a story all on its own. Because George Lucas, what most people don't realise, or what was mentioned back in the 70s, 80s, that George Lucas actually based the whole Star Wars on the ancient cultures, on the Eastern cultures, and the whole philosophy of the Force is actually the Daoist concept of Qi, or the Eastern philosophy of Qi. The whole thing of the Force, and even to the point with the Jedi and the Sith is the Yin and the Yang, and the interesting what's coming up is this new order called the Grey Code, which balances the dark and light side, and they are what would be called the Daoists, the true Daoists, or the steam Daoists, or the mist Daoists, or balancing the fire and the water, creating that mist. Now, the interesting thing about this as well is that the word Jedi comes from the Egyptian word de-Jedi, which now the de-Jedi were said to be connected to the Daoists, and these Egyptian priests actually studied and did a form of Qigong. Now, their name, the word de-Jedi, means the follower and keeper of the pillar of light. A lightsaber is a pillar of light. So the Jedi, the Jedi have the de-Jedi. They have the pillar of light. So, you know, Star Wars is not just some story. It goes back to a thing that Ethan, the guy who created this, would talk about a lot, which is the hero's journey. You know, the whole thing about the hero's journey, I can't remember off the top of my head the guy who wrote the book about the hero's journey, but Luke himself, he starts off, you know, as this, starts off on the desert planet, and, you know, wishing for great adventures, and, you know, then he goes through all these turmoils and sees his step parents die, or his auntie and uncle die, and he goes through all these big things, and at the end, you know, he's reached a new level, and each of those movies about that big cycle, the hero's journey. Right, anyway, I am rabbiting on, and I will stop. There is a question I see writing. Let's see what it is. So from Damon Thomas, let's see. He said, well, I just joined. How do you know if trees want to communicate? Okay, I like that question. What's your answer to that one?
All right, I'm getting that echo again. Maybe we could talk. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Damon. I love that question. And So this is how I figure out if a tree wants to communicate. I essentially ask it, which means I sometimes, because I've been communicating with trees for a while, I can feel their energy from pretty far away sometimes. But let me just take a sip of water here. But what I do is I actually approach the tree in a listening state. So I feel I come into my energy. I quiet my mind. If you have a meditation practice, then use whatever method you like. But the way that I think of it is coming into a listening state, just like you're listening to me talking right now, just like you would listen to a person. You become quiet in order to hear. And then I will approach the tree. Sometimes I can feel it right away. Sometimes the trees are really quiet. And so then I come into the tree. I touch the tree first with my hands and just feel. I'm kind of asking the tree energetically if it's okay to come closer, because trees like to be respected, just like people. They feel their personal space. And then I'll lean in. If I feel welcome, I'll lean in and bring my heart or my head or both to the tree and just ask the tree or just listen. Sometimes I say, do you have a message for me? Sometimes I just say hello. One time I was visiting a tree in Redondo Beach, California, which was in the middle of a sidewalk. And I was feeling kind of lonely. So I went to visit this tree, and it said to me, I wasn't asking the tree to talk to me this time. I just came up and I said hello, and I put myself close to the tree, and I got a very clear message. You have to tell our story. So that's a big part of why I'm here right now, is because I'm working on telling this story. I'm creating a book as well, which will be out at some point, maybe within a year. And so this tree said, you have to tell our story. Now, I visited this other tree which was also in California, in the mountains of Idlewild. I was at a Qigong retreat, and I went to visit a beautiful cedar tree, which I noticed had some scorch marks. So I leaned in and I connected with the tree, just like I said, just by saying hello. And then I decided to ask the tree, what do you think about my story? And the tree said, that's not my story. And I was like, oh, okay, well, will you tell me your story? And I don't get words from trees very often. Sometimes I get words. Usually they're images or feelings. And a lot of trees just, I know they want to communicate because they do. A lot of trees just don't say anything. They're just quiet. And then I just kind of feel the energy and then go on in those cases. This tree in Idlewild had a story to tell me, and it came in swirling images of orange and red. And I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? It's just, okay, I could see silhouettes of other trees around. I said, oh, it's the trees. The tree is telling me about communicating with its friends. And then the tree stopped communicating, and I walked away, and I felt pulled down a different path than I was going on to. Suddenly I found myself in the middle of a giant pile of cinders where a tree had obviously burned to the ground. And I was like, whoa. And I turned around and I looked back up the hill to where I had been, to where the tree that told me its story was. And the pattern of the fire was in the shape that it had shown me. So then I said, oh, that tree wasn't telling me about communicating. It was telling me about the fire that burned its friend down. So the short answer to your question is, the way I know if a tree wants to communicate is I go into deep listening and see if I hear something. And oftentimes nothing comes back. And sometimes it does. And then I'm really thrilled. Are there any others? Oh, yes. We can.
Okay, right, I'm back. Yes, it said, blah, 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 and I still find it difficult to be in nature and to be at peace and easily distracted. So that was another statement of the question.
I'm wondering if the distraction is coming from the nature or from the mind, because it's interesting. I hear this because I grew up in the country with the trees, and so I hear this from people who grew up in cities a lot, that sometimes quiet is distracting when you're used to a lot of activity going on all around and you don't know what to focus on. And this is a wonderful opportunity to be in nature and allow yourself to be distracted if that's what's happening. And perhaps the peace comes through the allowing. This is something that I've found in my personal practice that is so powerful, is an allowing of what is, rather than a trying to be a certain way. When I realize that I'm trying to be at peace, or trying to let go of a lost love, or trying to get my business together even, then I come up against a wall again and again and again. And then I go, okay, wait, what is the opportunity in this moment? And I open and I allow myself to be in that opportunity. So my recommendation to you, Damon, would be to allow yourself to be distracted and see what's there in that distraction for you. What is the opportunity within that experience? And maybe you'll find peace. Maybe you'll find a message. Maybe you'll find more distractions. It's impossible to know until you get there, but it could be an opening, a doorway into a new opportunity.
Indeed, very, very much so. Yeah, I mean, this thing here, there's this interesting thing within the philosophy of this is, let's say the yang is the city dweller, and the yin is the country dweller. A person who is used to the country is at home at the country, but when they're the country in the middle of the city, that can become too overbearing or too much. And the same can happen the other way around. For the city dweller, being in all that silence or being in is almost deafening. When you're used to noise and the whole thing you're learning within the Tai Chi and with Zhang is about stillness on the outside and movement on the inside. Tai Chi is about movement on the outside and stillness within. And this interesting thing for like city dwellers is, is how you hear them sometimes say silence is so deafening. It's too much. And for a country person, there's so much information coming in. Or for certain people, I know friends and myself, it's like HSP, highly sensitive person, or empaths. My teachers knew them as empaths, and for an empathic person, all that information, all that sound, all those emotions, it's overwhelming you like a wave, coming over the top of you, and it can be overbearing. I just wanted to also, if I may, just quickly add, one of my Sifus taught me an old Daoist trick of, how to know whether a tree wants to communicate with you, how to know also the same trick if you want to know whether you should do something or shouldn't do something. How do you ask the universe like a tarot, like treating the universe like a tarot card? And the answer is listen to your heart. And what that means is if you want to know whether a tree wants to bond with you, think of the tree, look at the tree, then focus on your heart and focus inside. Do you feel light and happy and expanding? That means come over, or that also means yes. If you're asking a question to the universe, if you feel contracting and shrinking or negative or heavy, then that is please, not today, not today, no thank you, or that means a no. So there is this within the three ones, there's this Daoist concept of the heart, the fire, is that if it expands and contracts, that is a positive, that is a yes. If it expands and grows warmer, and you feel that whatever that feeling is, or even, they would use it even in relationships or with a business deal. Meditate on that thing, whatever it is. Do you feel expanding? If you feel expanding, then that's a yes. If you feel contracting and shrinking or negative or scared or nervous, then that's not a yes. So it's like I say, it's an old, very shamanic sort of Taoist trait of listening to the universe, listening to yourself to actually find out answers to questions.
Yes, that is a wonderful method for sure. I've definitely used that before. And there was one time that I went to a tree without asking first and just kind of went right up without taking that time to feel. And I was bitten and I was like, oh, okay, you don't want me to visit you. I got it.
Yeah, but yeah, and that's so funny because like we know about symbiotic relationships with certain fish, with other fish, or birds with certain animals. But yeah, my old seafooders would always say the flies, the gnats, they are the ones with the trees. And if you get bitten, if something bites you, it's because the tree was expressing. And there's this thing about nature, about the Tao, is that first the Tao whispers. First, the universe whispers to you. This is why you must meditate. This is why you must be quiet within, so you can hear the whispers, or the angel on your shoulder in Western philosophy, or also known as the Daoist thought or Buddha mind. It will whisper to you. So you must meditate. You must be still to hear it. But if you don't listen, it will get a little bit louder. And if you don't listen, it'll get a bit louder until it'll smack you around the head with something. And Taoistically, that's what accidents are. That's what big misfortunes is. That Taoistically, you're not listening, so the universe will throw something at you. So that thing about the trees, if you suddenly get bitten, that's the tree saying you're not paying attention to I'm telling you, you're not listening. So it will shout in its own way, and its shout is something biting you, or something creepy crawly suddenly appearing. And if that creepy crawly you don't like, it's the tree communicating with you. It's the universe communicating with you. Right. Enough of me. There is, let's see. All right. So Damon said, thank you for your words. Yep. Thank you. That was very cool. Indeed. And also says, I was never in nature much growing up. Or as an adult, trying to find the balance. Thank you both of you. So balance. It's all about the Tao. It's all about the Tao. I use that word, but also there's a very cool saying of the Tao that can be explained is not the true Tao. So I I use this word, but it's just a word. It's just like that's just a hammer. It's meaningless unless it has a meaning. But finding your way is not set in stone. It will always change. It'll always move.
That's right.
The thing, just like your passions change, your likes change. The things like you like to eat as a kid, some of them you might not even like anymore. And there's some things you may have despised as a kid that you now love. I loved everything as a kid. I ate and ate and ate. I'm like Kung Fu Panda. I've always got a belly like Kung Fu Panda nowadays. But anyway, I digress. So, we've come up to an hour magically.
Hour
Is
goes.
there- Indeed, when you're having fun. We used to do 2-hour shows in the old days. Well, I'm not saying we can't, but I'm just saying we used to. Is there anything else, if we are going down the road of wrapping up, is there anything else you want to say before we do that?
Oh, there goes that echo. And will you, before I say anything else, can you bring the comment down from across your face? It's a bit distracting when you're talking. It goes right across your eyes. Yes. Well, I would love to just share with our audience that I look forward to hearing any more questions that come up if you watch this later on. If you're not with us live, you can find me on Facebook as Keira Lani, just like we have me here. And I'm working on getting things up on my website, which is called practiceselflove.com. Thank you for sharing that. So very soon I will have my beautiful poetry pictures. I've put some of my poems on pictures, and gosh, I should have brought some to share with you today. But I've been sharing those, and very soon I'll have those up to view, and my books will be out. And I'd love to, anybody that wants to see any of these upcoming things or experience more Qigong, medical Qigong, to find me and reach out, because I love making new connections and new friends and sharing wisdom, giving, receiving. If you have advice for me, any of those things are wonderful. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share with you today, Sifu Bagi. It has been very enlightening and enjoyable, and I really enjoy your presence and your wisdom and the fun, light way that you share it. Oh, and yeah, everybody should also look into the Jedi with a D, because I've been learning more about that lately, and it is very fascinating. Relates to the Knights Templar as well as ancient Egypt, and it's so fascinating to dive into the history. A lot of my Qigong tribe refer to each other as Jedis, and I didn't realize until recently that that's actually an accurate way to refer to each other, because, oh, thank you. Yes, Jedi with a G. D. So do you say D Jedi? You were saying D Jedi. I didn't realize you say that, D Jedi. I thought it was just Jedi with a D. Okay, you have to turn your...
Yeah. So it's actually, well, the Egyptian terminology was the Jedi. Which almost sounds like the Jedi, but the is of the Jedi, but it means the keeper of the pillar of light. Yes, David. What is his surname? David Baldry. Do you guys say Baldry?
Baldry.
Baldry. Say it one more time.
Baudry, like beau, like in French when we say my beau.
Oui. Yeah, Baudry. Baudry. Okay. Yeah, I mean, see, this is the thing that I know him just more as Jedi brother or the brother. I mean, there's a big connection with him, with myself, and Russ Anderson, a friend of mine, but also Matt Brightside Evans. I know all of those, and that also spans back to Andrew Morrissey, and that was where the original D Jedi was sort of that whole thing was coming about. But yeah, it's all about the pillar of light, and you are the pillar of light. You are that energy.
Oh. Yeah, and David Baudry is one of both my colleagues and one of my teachers, and we have been sharing in Pillar of Light meditation together. And I am inspired to share one more thing by this. So I don't know if we can see this picture very well, but this is one of my poetry pictures. And it was inspired by this picture of pillars. This is from Egypt. My friends went to Egypt and they took this picture, and I said, hey, can I use your picture for one of my poems? And so this is the poem. It's not too long. I walk. Sandstone pillars line up beside me. I feel ancient footprints, echoes of time gone by. I am, you are, we are pillars of light. We reach for the heavens and ground into the earth. Dance with me, walk with me. Together, we amplify our light. Pray with me, be with me, just be. So I wrote that in 2015.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very, very cool. And it's actually yeah, I really like that. It's we David, Andrew, yeah, we're all always talking about the whole Jedi movement, the new Jedi movement. I mean, for me, it's all about the grey code is the balance between the light and the dark, because you need the both. I mean, there's a very cool picture a friend of mine took. I'll just add it up. This one is very much you see the light, but it's also the darkness surrounding me that makes the light so prominent. It's the whole thing is I'll put it somewhere. Oh yeah, is back to this, baby. You need the yang and you need the yin. You need the dark and you need the light. Both live off each other. Again, for a lot of people, that used to be very controversial. Because I'm basically saying you need darkness, you need evil in its concept as well as you need goodness, because they both. And the point is, for a Daoist, for a Jedi, the point is that between the two, you'll find that silver mist. It's the balance between the two that activates, that truth, that reality, that it's we need everything, all the darkness, all the the companies doing what they've done, and all the things that's happened to the earth. It's needed. We may not like it, but it's needed, because that's how things change. Is you change when you decide there is room for change. An old Daoist act is a bowl of water, and the bowl of water, the water's going one way, and when you put your finger in and you go the opposite way, the first thing that happens is the water splashes up. The first thing when you create change is you get chaos, which is part of the boggy in boggy. Is first comes the chaos, and you have to ride the chaos, ride the big waves, ride the anarchy to get through to the other side. So sometimes you've got to have the darkness to find the light. You need the light, and the whole point of the darkness is so you can recognize the light as well. If you had nothing but light, you would be blinded, but with the darkness and the light you have balance. And it's about not going too much in one or not too much in the other, but finding that balance, finding the way that, and because steam ascends, ascension, you go and you rise through the steam, but you don't get steam if you don't have water, you don't get steam if you don't have fire. But hey, what do I know?
Yes, I like to say the darker the shadow, the brighter the light. And then there's the wonderful ancient text of the golden flower, where it says, "Turn the light around." And so we turn that light around and shine it on those dark places. And that's how we really become enlightened, right? Because we look at the shadows, because we look at those dark places, then we can come to the light. There is no light without darkness, or darkness without light, really. It would just be all gray otherwise, right?
Indeed, I mean, in Buddhism, it's about that suffering. You need to appreciate or understand that suffering. From the suffering, you learn and you grow. You need that bitterness. That's why it exists. You know, within the Buddhist concept and within the Daoist concept, they change the words slightly between the two, but the idea is the same: is that you need that balance. You need to be able to find that path. And the point is that, you know, but if you do it in a fun way, you do it you understand that ultimately everything is about love and light and growth. So even when you get those sour times, when you get the bad times, look up. Because medically, when you look up, you drain the blood from your head. So you drain the blood from the monkey mind, the forebrain, and you allow more space to enter by emptying the mind. So, and that looking up is you looking up towards the light. You're looking up towards the energy. But anyway, surprise, surprise, I digress as always, as I do. So, okay, for the show, I think we'll call it quits. I'd like to say, definitely, guys, if you have any questions, you're watching this in the future and you have any questions, please put them on the comments below. And what will happen is that Keira she is on the group of The Way of Learning, which is the group version of the page, the fan page, and the show. All the guests are on there, all past and future co-hosts on there, and past and future guests, actually. There are guests from the future already on there. And they share stuff, and you guys can share stuff. So if you look up The Way of Conscious Mindfulness, which, just in case you don't know, it is that. If you look up The Way of Conscious Mindfulness, you will find the show, and you can look on to there. You will then find The Way of Learning. Look, or just simply type in The Way of Learning, and you will find that group. Also, don't forget, for Keira, this show is that her website is or I think you can simply just put in practiceselflove.com. 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 So my dyslexia.
Or practices elf-love. I never thought of it till you said that. Practices elf-love. I do love elves.
I have lots of pagan friends, and I have a few elves. I know a few elves, and actually, you were talking. There's a friend I'm thinking of instantly, Pixie Mikey, and he's done a lot of. He's funny enough, like when you're talking about the mushrooms and whatnot. He's actually a musician. He's got a group called the Pixie Phonics, and they have done tree songs, they have done mushroom songs, they have done songs about. He loves tea, and so he has lots of songs about tea. I will definitely put this on his group because I think he will appreciate this show. And yes, the great Pixie Mikey and the Pixophonics. Yes, I will actually send you a link to their stuff as well. But yes, very, very cool. It's all very good. So yes, practicing elf love. Pixie, there's a new one for you. Practicing elf love. We've got it here all on this show. One of my old students, Nathan says sorry he missed the show. It doesn't matter. You can watch it from the beginning. It's all good. Once we go, you can watch it from the beginning, and it's there for the future. That's the whole point of these shows. That's why I love this. It's all there for the future, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, so Keira, I want to say thank you so much. I've loved this show immensely. I know I rabbit on a bit, but it's great listening to you, and I've had a great. Actually, the golden card is being pulled. Actually, I'm going to have to create a prop of a golden card. The golden card is being pulled out, and that is, I would love for you to be a co-host in the future. I'll give you a list of the future shows, and if there's any shows that interest you that you would like to come and ask questions like we do, then you have that permission slip. You have that the golden card, and also I think we should do another show at some point in the future. We should. I think we could expand and go off in different ways, or maybe once you've learned a little bit more about the Jedi, you can come on and talk about your Tao of the Jedi. Maybe, who knows? Just throwing that idea out there.
Yes, I'm sure that we could come up with another topic, or I have my hands in many different pots over here. So yes, that would be wonderful. And I will definitely take you up on that and check out the other shows to co-host as well when I have the time. It's wonderful.
The golden ticket is there. I think I've given out so many golden tickets. I think I've got about 50 co-hosts now, but that's all good. I like that idea. I like having different, I always enjoyed that idea. But anyway, I'm rambling just for a change. So, for now, let's say, Keira, hold on. But so for guys out there in live Facebook land, we're going to go. It's been a great show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know we did. The next show is on Monday, UK time, 7:30. So June the 4th, Monday. It is Dane Domio, and he is going to be talking about, if I remember off the top of my head, please forgive me, Dane, if I get this slightly wrong, but it is Chai Tea and Tai Chi. So another one for you, Pixie Mikey, Chai Tea and Tai Chi, amongst other things. So that, and another Qigong practitioner. I'm loving it at the moment. Bring on the Qigong, that's what I say. But anyway, so that's for Monday. And then next week we've got two, because next week we've also got one on Sunday as well. So see you guys then. I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget, we are the group is the way of learning. You can also, just for a second, there's also www.sifu.boggy, if you're interested. But otherwise, take care for now. Love, Chi, and Shen from myself, Sifu Boggy, and the wonderful Keira. Bye for now.